Joining me now, Matt Doyle, Assistant News Director with the Louisiana Radio Network, Randy Sutton, retired police lieutenant, Dr. William Maroney, he's the medical examiner, forensic pathologist and toxicologist, and Parag Shah, he's a defense attorney and author of The Code. You know, so much about this story doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. You have a baby that ultimately, you know, is burned. We see the little beautiful boy there. And so let's just sort this out. Matt Doyle, let's go to you. Try to make sense of this story for me and for the viewers, please.
Well, the timeline that we're working with is that on July the 17th, around 9 o'clock, police received a call from Baker, the child's mother, who said that there had been a home invasion and that her child was missing. About an hour later, that child would end up found about a mile or two farther away with extensive burns, was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Now, we talked to Natchitoches police the next day, who told us the mother's version of events. She says she was alone with her child at her home in the Mayberry trailer park, heard some loud knocks at the door. When she opened it, she was sprayed with mace. She says she then retreated out and then away from the trailer. When she returned, her child was gone. But we now have reason to suspect that that story may not have been true, as 22-year-old Hannah Baker has been charged with principal to first-degree murder in the death of her child.
You know, Matt, what I'm not understanding, though, is how and why, what motivation would a mother have to see their child burned, you know, alive? Why would she have given this child up voluntarily? Why would the police charge her to begin with if her indication is that intruders are the ones who did it? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, at this point, authorities are being really tight-lipped about the whole situation. They have been since the start. It's been something between Natchitoches Police and the State Fire Marshal's office because there has been another arrest involved in this particular case. There was an associate of Baker's, Felicia Marie Nicole Smith, who was initially charged with first-degree murder. Then Baker was charged. They haven't given out any reasons for it because they say it's an ongoing investigation, and we shouldn't be surprised if there are more arrests involved in the case.
Yeah, I would suspect not, Matt. I just want to go to Dr. William Maroney to just sort of unpack some of the science here. Doctor, if I could just ask you, the no smoke in the lungs, first of all, and I have a series of questions for you, but beginning with that, what is that an indication of?
If there's no smoke in the lungs of a child or an adult that's been through any kind of fire, it means that baby or an adult has been either beaten into unconsciousness or was too sick to breathe, and there's no air exchange. Otherwise, a live baby or a live adult breathing in a burning environment singes the inner airways, and then you find soot. So you know whether or not a baby was conscious or alive looking at the inside of the lungs when it's involved in a fire.
And if there's smoke or char in the lungs, what is that an indication of?
That's an indication that a fire was started, and that was a very active and cognizant child. That's a very bad thing.
And, Doctor, the bruising on the body, which would show up after embalming, medically, what does that point to?
What we know is that bruises that happen when a baby is alive are vital, and it's a very dynamic process. Blood comes to the skin. But if a child is beaten close to a time that it dies and there's not enough function, sometimes the chemistry of embalming brings those bruises out, and that would mean they're much fresher bruises, whereas the bruises that you would see on a child that are purple are older. And any baby involved in this kind of autopsy is going to get a whole body x-ray, radiography from head to toe, because they're going to be looking for fractures.
Sure. And before I get to the defense of it and before I get to the investigative part of it, Doc, I just want to stick to you a couple more things. Just in terms of the hemorrhaging,
sure.
If you look at the hemorrhaging in the eyes, for example, what does that point to?
If a child is choked or strangulated, the superficial blood vessels are how blood returns to the heart. And when you constrict them, the inner blood vessels central to the body still pump blood to the head and to the eyes and to the face, and then that blood can't return because it's being choked. So therefore, eyes and certain parts of the face hemorrhage, and they have a very specific name. They're called petechiae, and that's an absolute sign that a child was strangulated or choked.
Amazing stuff. And just attacking a couple of other issues here. With regard to DNA, which we know is very compelling, I think Randy Sutton will agree with that, and Parag Shah will agree with that as well. Does a fire, would that destroy DNA?
A fire would destroy DNA on the clothes. A fire would destroy DNA on the skin. So the important thing is to find some part of the body. And if there's a stranger's DNA, then that opens up the list of people. It's very complicated, though, because mother's DNA is going to be on a baby all the time. If there's nobody else's DNA, then there was nobody else there.
Absolutely. Dr. Maroney, I'd use you as an expert witness in any case. Great work. Stand by. I'll get back to you momentarily.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Parag, let me go to you. Parag Shah, author of the code, defense attorney. Look, best defense here. A lot about this case doesn't make sense to me. The mother, we know, is being charged. Some other woman is being charged. They have no motivation so far as I can get or understand. What's going on here, and what would be the defense's play?
Well, right now the defense is she didn't do it because we just don't have enough information. There's nothing to doubt her story because she is presumed innocent until proven guilty, so we can't doubt her story. All I can imagine right now is that they have a cooperating witness. The other woman that's been charged may be talking. There may be something going on behind the scenes. Maybe even Hannah Baker herself is talking behind the scenes because to give up these other people so she can try to save herself. I mean, there are a lot of moving parts here, but we just don't have enough information to make a determination. But right now, it's I didn't do it.
So, you know, Randy Sutton, in terms of the no information or not enough information, which I would agree with Parag Shah here, what are investigators going to do to make sure that they have adequate information, not only to build the case, but to ensure that they have success in it?
Well, keep in mind that she was charged. That means that probable cause existed. Present to a magistrate to actually make the arrest. So we just don't have that information. The law enforcement is being extremely tight-lipped on this. But you know what I can't fathom is the cruelty, the method of killing this baby, setting this baby on fire is inhuman. And the fact that 2 people have been arrested shows that there was some type of collusion taking place between them. And that's even more frightening, that more than one person would be capable of such a despicable, horrendous murder.
Without question, Randy Sutton, but back to that, and I'll go back to you, Parag, on this issue. You know, 2 people here, but what would the mother's motivation be? I'm not getting or understanding, and I know, obviously, probable cause needs to exist for a magistrate or judge to swear out a warrant, to issue an arrest. But, I mean, what motivation would there be for a mother to want to see her baby burned alive a mile down the road?
I can't think of any motivation except for maybe there's something going on with her mentally. But, you know, maybe we should look at this from a different perspective. Maybe this doesn't have anything to do with the baby. Maybe the baby was a consequence of something else going on between her and this other lady, or some other situation that's happening that's something that we don't even know about, and the baby was a consequence of actions that she took with this other woman.
Now, Parag, I agree with that, which furthers my trouble here. And if she is, you know, if what you say is true, then, again, why charge the mother? I just want to play a soundbite, and then we'll talk about the soundbite coming out of it. Listen to this.
Around 9:10 p.m., we received a 911 call stating that the subject had attempted to gain entry into a residence. A female subject answered the door. Upon her return, apparently the child, or her infant child, was missing.
And so, again, Parag, I mean, what does that give us that would allow the mother to be charged? I would imagine that a defense attorney like you and me, I mean, would kind of have a field day with respect to why she's in custody.
I agree completely with you, and all I can think of is, you know, that she is some type of party to the crime, or they're trying to do some type of felony murder, that there is some other felony that was occurring at the time that they have evidence of, and the baby is the consequence of it, and therefore she is technically, it's a felony murder or a party to a crime type of legal theory that I think they're trying to do, possibly.
Without question. Matt Doyle, if you're still with us, what's next in the case? How far along are we? When are the next court dates? What's happening here?
Well, actually, just to respond to to what was just said, we got a chance to talk to the state fire marshal, and they say that it wasn't a random act, but they suspect at this time that the alleged criminal partnership between the two was limited to the murder. But moving forward into the future, in the next day or so, we're going to be having a hearing. She has been booked into Natchitoches Detention Center.
What, if any, relationship existed as between these two defendants?
Well, they said that those two were definitely, they knew each other, but at this point they're being pretty tight-lipped about exactly the nature of that relationship.
And Dr. Maroney, if I could go back to you with respect to the actual medical evidence, when you look and examine the medical evidence, would there have been an X-ray done on the body of the child? And if so, what, if any, information would be gleaned from that?
There are two really important things you're going to get from a whole body x-ray. You're going to get old fractures and you're going to get new fractures. If there's just some new fractures, you could say that happened in the final assault. If they have old fractures, then you're looking at compounding evidence for child abuse in addition to homicide.
And that's why there would be an actual full body x-ray that would be needed in this particular case?
Absolutely.
Got it.
Absolutely, 100%.
We appreciate that, Dr. Maroney. Randy Sutton, real quickly to you, what's the biggest piece of evidence here you think that would point to the mother's involvement?
Well, there's going to be the forensic evidence that we don't know anything about. And in regards to the story about the two home invaders, my guess is that that's going to turn out to be nothing but a crock, and in order to point the direction elsewhere.
Well, you know, interestingly enough, to our defense attorney here, Parag Shah, inconsistent statements are often problematic. How would you explain away a mom, if she's innocent, perhaps giving information that is faulty and simply untrue and what we know to be inconsistent?
Well, obviously, inconsistent statements hurt a lot, and we would first have to determine where the inconsistency is coming from. Is it coming from this other co-defendant? Is it coming from forensic? Where is the inconsistency coming from? Until we know that, that's how we would challenge it.
Indeed, we will. Parag Shah, we appreciate you. Dr. William Maroney, he's our medical examiner and forensic pathologist. You as well. Randy Sutton, you know, thanks for joining us. Everyone obviously is entitled to a defense, and everyone is innocent until proven guilty.